The first thing you notice isn't the sound. It's the way a $250,000 engine hums, low and confident, like it knows it owns the street. I ease my foot off the brake, and the matte black Lamborghini glides forward, sunlight spilling across its sculpted hood. I can feel the buttery soft leather against my palms as I grip the steering wheel, nails freshly painted in a shade called Power Red. Through the tinted glass, I see them, standing in the parking lot of Ridgeview High's 10-year reunion, holding plastic cups of cheap champagne. Same group, same smirks. And for a split second, I'm 17 again, riding past them on that battered old bike with a chain that slipped every third block. My heart thumps in a steady rhythm, not from nerves, but from something sharper, a quiet satisfaction I can taste, like the first sip of a perfectly brewed espresso. A phone buzzes in my clutch. I glance down at the notification. "Can't wait to see you tonight," from Taylor, my oldest friend. I take a breath, smooth the silk scarf at my neck, and open the door. The cool autumn air rushes in, carrying faint notes of pumpkin spice from the cafe across the street. My heels click on the pavement as I step out, locking the Lumbo with a soft beep that makes heads turn. I smile at the exact same people who once laughed the loudest. They have no idea what's coming. The truth is, that old bike wasn't even mine. It was my uncle's, a hand-me-down from when he was in high school back in the 80s. The seat was torn, the paint had faded to a dull bluish gray, and the right pedal squeaked like a mouse every time I pushed down. But it was the only way I could get to Ridgeview High. Mom was working double shifts at the diner then, and Dad hadn't been in the picture for years. We didn't have a car. We barely had rent. I'll never forget the first time the laughter started. It was October, junior year. The air was cold enough to sting my cheeks as I pedaled into the school lot, my backpack sliding on my shoulders. I saw them, Jenna Wallace, Amber Collins, and their whole crowd, leaning against a shiny red Mustang. Amber cupped her hands around her mouth. "Nice ride, Harper," she called out, grinning so wide it hurt to look at. The others burst out laughing, and I felt my ears heat under my beanie. It wasn't just the words. It was the way they looked at me like I was less, like the bike defined me. That night, I came home to find my grandmother, Evelyn, at the kitchen table, folding laundry. She looked up, saw my face, and said, "What happened?" I tried to brush it off, but the lump in my throat gave me away. She reached over, took my hands in hers, warm, worn hands with a faint smell of lavender lotion. "Harper, people will measure you by what they can see. Don't waste your life proving them right. Prove yourself right." She reached for her necklace, a simple silver pendant shaped like a compass, and pressed it into my palm. "You're going to need this more than I do. When you feel lost, you'll know which way to go." That was the night I made a decision. Not to fight them. Not to beg to be included. I would outgrow this town, this life, and every sneer that came with it. And I'd do it so quietly they wouldn't see me coming until I was already gone. The week after my grandmother gave me the compass pendant, I got my first job, bussing tables at a little breakfast place called Millie's Cafe. It wasn't glamorous. My hands always smelled faintly of coffee grounds, my sneakers were permanently sticky from syrup spills, and my tips barely covered the gas station snacks I lived on. But Millie's had free Wi-Fi, and that was my goldmine. I'd hunch over my beat-up laptop in the back booth after my shifts, teaching myself graphic design from free YouTube tutorials. I didn't have Adobe at first, just a clunky, free program that froze every 10 minutes. But I stuck with it. One night, while I was struggling to get a client's logo to look halfway professional, a woman in a navy pantsuit slid into the booth across from me. "You've been in here every night this week," she said, sipping her coffee like she had all the time in the world. "What are you working on?" Her name was Linda Monroe, marketing director for a mid-sized apparel company in Denver. She'd been watching me. 2 weeks later, I was designing her company's spring catalog for $500, more money than I'd ever made in one go. She didn't just give me work. She gave me advice, contacts, and a belief that I could actually make a living from my skills. The years blurred into a cycle. Cafe shifts in the mornings, design work in the afternoons, online classes at night. There were nights I fell asleep with my head on the keyboard. There were mornings I wanted to quit. But then came the first big win. A startup in California loved my work so much they signed me for a 6-month retainer. I upgraded my laptop. I paid off the last of Mom's medical bills. And I never told anyone back home. On social media, I kept it simple, pictures of sunsets, coffee mugs, maybe a cat video or two. No hints of the contracts, the travel, or the steady climb in my bank account. By the time I turned 25, I had a client list that spanned 3 countries. I'd incorporated my own agency, Compass Creative, named after the pendant I wore every day. My first real splurge wasn't the Lamborghini. It was a little apartment with tall windows and enough light to make my succulents thrive. I furnished it piece by piece, every chair and coffee table a quiet reminder that I'd earned this on my own. And still, I kept it quiet, not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted the reveal to be mine. When the time came, it wouldn't be an Instagram post or a rumor. It would be me, face to face with the people who once made me feel small. And they wouldn't just see me. They'd see the life I built. The parking lot chatter quieted the second the Lumbo's door lifted upward. I stepped out, my heels clicking against the asphalt like a slow drumbeat. The autumn breeze tugged gently at my silk scarf, and I smoothed it down. Not because I needed to, but because I liked the way their eyes followed the motion. Jenna Wallace was the first to say something. "Harper? Oh my God, it's been forever." She forced a smile, so wide it almost looked painful. Amber Collins wasn't far behind, tilting her head like she was squinting into the sun. "Wow, that's your car?" I could feel every gaze in the lot stick to me like static. A few people actually leaned closer, their plastic champagne flutes dangling in forgotten hands. "It is," I said, my voice calm, almost casual. "Picked it up in Miami last spring." There was a pause, the kind of pause that swells when people don't know what to say, without revealing too much surprise. "So, what do you do now?" one of the guys asked. He'd been in their crowd too, back then. I let the question hang in the air for a moment, watching them shift on their feet. Then I smiled. "I run a creative agency. Clients in New York, LA, and a couple in Europe." Amber's eyes widened. "Seriously?" "Seriously." I slipped my clutch under my arm and stepped closer, my heels sinking slightly into the edge of the grass. It started small. Freelance work. Late nights. But it grew. Now I have a team of 12. Jenna glanced at the car, then back at me. "That's incredible." I had no idea. "That's because I didn't tell you." I didn't say it with bite, just truth. A truth that landed between us like a weight. Someone else muttered, "I thought you moved to Denver to work retail or something." I almost laughed. "No. I moved to Denver to work for myself." Their faces were a collage of emotions, surprise, curiosity, maybe even guilt. And under all of it, I could see the flicker of memory in their eyes. The bike, the laughter, the way I kept my head down. Now I stood taller than I ever had in high school, not because of the heels, but because I knew who I was. "Anyway," I said lightly, "I didn't come here to give a TED Talk. I just wanted to see everyone. It's been interesting." But the truth was, I could feel their questions pressing against me like heat. How much is she worth? How did she get there? Could she help me? That last one didn't take long to surface. Jenna cleared her throat. "You know, Harper, I'm starting a little boutique downtown. I could really use some help with branding." Amber jumped in. "And my fiancé's launching a business too. Maybe we could, I don't know, collaborate." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked past them to the reflection of my car in the glass doors of the gymnasium, the curve of its fender glowing under the streetlights. I turned back to them, letting a small smile play at my lips. "Maybe. But let's talk inside." I could see it in their faces. They weren't just looking at Harper from high school anymore. They were looking at a woman who had quietly rewritten her story. And the best part? I still hadn't told them everything. Inside the gymnasium, the reunion was in full swing. Balloons in school colors, a DJ spinning early 2010s hits, the smell of catered pasta trays mixing with perfume and cologne. I slipped off my scarf, draping it over a chair, and sipped the sparkling water I'd grabbed from the drink table. Jenna and Amber trailed after me like we were old friends catching up, but I could feel the shift. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was need. Jenna leaned in first. So, about that boutique I mentioned, I'm not asking for free work or anything, but maybe you could just guide me? Amber was quick to add, and my fiancé's brand could really benefit from your kind of experience. Just some tips. I set my glass down, the ice clinking softly. Tips are easy. But growth? That takes work. Real work. They both nodded eagerly. I took a breath, then met their eyes one at a time. I'll help on a few conditions. Amber tilted her head. Conditions? First, I said, you start treating people with respect. Not just clients. Not just people who can help you. Everyone. The barista making your latte. The intern running errands. The kids still finding their way to school on a rusty bike. I saw Amber's cheeks flush. Second, I continued. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else. You focus on your own growth. No tearing people down to feel taller. Jenna's smile faltered. And third, I said, my voice steady. You put in the hours. If you think success is overnight, you're wasting both our time. I'll give you advice, resources, maybe even contacts, but only if you're ready to grind. They exchanged a glance, the same silent communication they used to share in the hallways of Ridgeview High. Only now the dynamic was different. Jenna cleared her throat. Okay, I can do that. Amber hesitated, then nodded.
Yeah.
Same here. I smiled, not unkindly.
Good.
Because I'm not interested in building something for you. I want to help you build it for yourself. For a moment, they both just stood there processing. I could see the realization setting in, that this wasn't charity, and it wasn't revenge. It was a challenge. Across the room, Taylor caught my eye and gave me a subtle thumbs up. She'd been there through every late-night hustle, every self-doubt spiral. She knew exactly what this moment meant. I picked up my glass again and took a slow sip, letting the cool fizz settle on my tongue. For years, they had decided the narrative. Tonight, I rewrote it, and I set the rules. 3 months later, my inbox pinged with an email from Jenna. The subject line read, "You were right." She'd attached photos of her boutique's grand opening. Nothing flashy, just a clean storefront with thoughtful window displays and a steady line of customers. She wrote about learning how to negotiate with suppliers, how to budget, and how to treat every customer like they mattered. A week after that, Amber texted me a snapshot of her fiancé's small sportswear brand finally turning a profit. She added, "Condition number 1 stuck with me. Thank you." I didn't respond right away. I just smiled at the screen, feeling a quiet pride that wasn't about proving myself anymore. It was about knowing I'd sparked something in them. One crisp Saturday morning, I took the Lumbo out for a long drive through the backroads outside Denver. The leaves had turned shades of gold and crimson, carpeting the edges of the asphalt. I stopped at a scenic overlook, killed the engine, and just listened to the silence. Reaching into my jacket pocket, I pulled out my grandmother's silver compass pendant. The metal was warm from my body heat, the chain smooth against my fingers. I thought about the girl who used to ride that old bike, cheeks red from the wind, stomach twisted from the sting of laughter. I thought about the woman who now chose her own roads, in life and on the map. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind, "Prove yourself right." I slipped the pendant back on, the weight of it settling against my collarbone like an anchor, but one that didn't hold me down. One that pointed me forward. Back in the driver's seat, I glanced at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Same brown eyes, same stubborn chin. Just a different story now. I started the engine, the sound deep and confident, rolling through the empty air. Because it turns out, the ride was never about the wheels. It was always about the woman steering them.